Welcome back to another video on the channel. We have reached the fourth major of 2021 at this year's US Open. I think it's been another brilliant year for women's tennis, highlighted at the Tokyo Olympics when Belinda Bencic won her first major title, I guess you can call it, fully deserving. And today I'm just going to be talking about the US Open, giving my preview, talking about a few players, and also finally giving my predictions on who I think will lift the title in New York in a couple of weeks. So I think Krejcika against Pavlyuchenkova at the French Open final was just an example of where women's tennis is at the moment. You have the consistent players at the top. Osaka hasn't been as consistent this year, but has been in the past. Simona Halep, Ashley Barty, they usually perform at Grand Slams and get to quarterfinals, semi-finals pretty consistently. But overall, I think the slams and tournaments and masters events are wide open at the moment. There's so many talented players that are capable of winning these tournaments, and that was kind of shown by Krejcikova and Pavlyuchenkova both reaching a major final for the very first time. Bencic, Svitolina, Kerber, Barty, all in great form. Osaka's defending champion. You've got the youthfulness of Swiatek and Gauff and Raducanu, Sabalenka, the experience of Kerber, Kvitova, Azarenka. So I just think there's a perfect mix of youth and experience. You're guaranteed thriller matches and a thoroughly entertaining tournament, which is what we all want to see. So I'm going to kick off now previewing the players and starting with the number one, Ashley Barty, who I think is playing the best tennis of her career in 2021. She had a couple of injury problems last year and at the start of this year, but thankfully she looks to be behind those, and she's just playing the tennis of her life. She fully deserved to be Wimbledon champion. She realised a childhood dream, and I think during that 2 weeks for Barty, she got better as the tournament went on, which I always think is a great sign for a champion, that she plays herself into form with confidence. And it was just an outstanding display of courage, skill, determination. I think, technically Barty's the best women's player in the world. She has been for a couple of years now, just for the fact she's got every single shot nailed. She's fantastic under pressure, a brilliant underrated serve. Backhand slice is used very effectively. Double-handed backhand also offers that aggression and variation, which is difficult for opponents to read. The forehand I thought was near perfect at Wimbledon. And she's just very strong mentally, physically. She's in great form. She's happy with where her game's at. She's happy with the levels she's producing. She's confident she can beat any player in the world. She's just won Cincinnati Masters, which is a fantastic preparation for this event. And yeah, I just think, Barty's tough to beat. She's a person I think that just defines what it takes to be a champion. Mentally and on court, she's brilliant in both ways. And I think it's going to be tough to beat Ashley Barty at this year's US Open. So moving on now to Naomi Osaka, and I think it's fair to say that Osaka hasn't had the ideal preparation for this. She'll say that herself. She withdrew from Wimbledon, exited Olympics in the third round. She exited last 16 at Cincinnati recently. However, I think it's fair to say and understand that Osaka's had her issues this year. She looks a lot happier this week when I've seen her in the press conferences and talking to press pre-tournament, which is nice to see. She seems to be in a better place mentally to compete. And, we all know how good Naomi Osaka is. She's a four-time major champion, done all her winning in majors on hard court. So I think if Osaka was bang at it, ready to go, she's definitely the one to beat. However, I do have my doubts. I don't think she's played enough tennis in 2021. She's admitted that herself, that she'd like to have played more matches, she'd have liked to have won more matches. Her game's probably not quite where she'd like it to be. But I think when you look at the likes of Kerber and Pliskova and Sabalenka and Barty, who've won lots of matches in 2021, they've came through close battles, they've battle hardened, they've had to be pushed, and they've had to battle for 3 sets and win matches and came through those. You don't really sort of, you can't buy that experience of recent form, and Osaka just hasn't quite got that, but with Naomi Osaka, we know she's got the weapons. She can turn up and serve well. She nails the forehand from round one. She cruises through the early rounds, picking up confidence and playing herself into form. Then she becomes a huge danger to everybody in the draw. I just feel like that I've said that Barty and Bencic and Piscova have played a lot of tennis in 2021. They're more active. They can be more confident in their games, but if Osaka turned up, produced the best and won this tournament, I don't think it would come as a surprise to anybody in the world. Now moving on to Koko Goth, who is one of my favourite players I think to watch in the WTA at the moment. I wouldn't say she's played her best tennis in 2021 since Wimbledon. Perhaps would have liked a few more wins and better performances, but you know she's still very young. She's learning, she's gaining experience all the time, which is I think some people do forget her age. You know she's still is a 17-year-old, still a very young player. But for me, she is a title contender at the US Open, and I think the fact that she'll have the crowd support, particularly without either the Williams sisters, she's sort of flying the flag for American tennis at the US Open. She thrives in big arenas. She's improving all the time, and I love watching Koko Goff. I just feel like you know she's captivating. She's emotional on court. She's box office, and I do feel like all her matches are a real product. Over time, when you think of the likes of Serena and Rafa and Roger and Novak and Andy Murray, where if they're playing at a Grand Slam, you don't want to miss. You know, you have to watch their matches, and I think Koko Goff's starting to get into that category as well. All the matches just seem to be very entertaining, whether she does win or lose. As I've said there, she is improving all the time. You know, she's always had that natural speed, the desire, the athleticism, but I think the second serve and a forehand were really letting her down. You know, it's 18 to 20 months ago, but over time, the last couple of years in particular, I think she's massively improved those. I still don't think she's got a major weakness down the game, which is a great attribute to have. She's adding power and aggression to her arsenal, so she's not just defending, she can now do both. I think Gauff on the front foot, when she really steps inside the court, takes the ball early. She's got devastating backhand and forehand, and I think that's probably when she's at her best. But on the other hand, when she's counter punching, chasing balls down, she's super quick, super fit, and I think she's great gaining the all round game. And I think with the support of the American crowd next week, you know, she could become one of the favourites to take this tournament. Now, I'm going to look at two of the most informed players in 2021, Barbara Krejcikova and Belinda Bencic. So Krejcikova won the French Open. I think she's pretty much a complete outsider. I'm not sure I've actually seen Krejcikova play before the French Open, but she's a perfect example of the strength and depth in the WTA, which I was talking about at the start of the video. She's a brilliant player that I think is riding the wave. You know, she's stayed at top 10 for the US Open, which I'm sure she didn't see happening at the start of 2021. A double-handed backhand, I think, is one of the most consistent and effective shots in the whole of the WTA. Just very consistent, executed to perfection. She changes direction, the complexion of points so well. Mentally, she's superb under pressure. You know, she was down break points and down in sets a lot of that French Open, but seemed to battle back and perform her best under pressure, which is, you know, vital to become a Grand Slam champion, which she did. She's just very solid. You know, I don't think she does anything spectacularly well, but she just plays traditional attritional tennis from the baseline, makes very few unforced errors, defends well and deep, forces opponents to play the long game. I think she's one of those players that you're going to have to play a very solid game to beat her. You're going to have to hit lots of lines consistently. And if you hit too many unforced errors, if you're not quite at it, then Krejcikova will take huge advantage of that. I think she's a very good problem solver, tactically very good. I think she switches the game up so well. And yeah, she's going to be tough to beat as she has been so far in 2021. Belinda Bencic, who I think will be very suited to US Open. You know, she won Olympic gold. I think she deserved a major title, and she just pretty much dominated that event from start to finish. You know, Bencic is a player that likes to take the ball very early. She's not the biggest ball striker, but consistently does hit the lines, attacks with a drive volley. One of the best returners in the world as well, in my opinion. And I always think that tennis, and particularly women's tennis with three sets and lots of players being separated by very fine margins, that a recent tournament win can provide the extra confidence that you might need and make your play better, just having more trust in your shots and in your game. I think if Bencic can play as well as she did in Tokyo, being aggressive, attacking the net, dictating rallies, then she could go all the way in this one. She could just ride the wave like Krejcikova has in 2021 and pick up her first major title, which would, you know, count off a fantastic 2021 for Bencic if she could do that. Now, Arena Sabalenka has to be in the picture. I'm still not personally convinced that Sabalenka has it in her to win a Grand Slam. I still think she's susceptible to spells and matches where she goes missing. She's a little bit passive. She makes too mmany enforced errors. Chases winners, overhits, and against players like Barty and Osaka, you can't really afford to have those moments. She did play a very, very good Wimbledon, but against Piscova it was a topsy-turvy match, and I think, it was a chance for Sabalenka to reach a maiden Grand Slam final, but she never quite took control of the match when she should have, and she let Piscova back in at times with poor shots and so slightly overhitting the ball, taking too much risk, trying to hit winners on balls that just weren't there to be hit. And I think Sabalenka, with experience, she will get there. She is a future Grand Slam champion in my opinion, but at the moment, I'm just not sure she has the right mentality to win a Grand Slam. Undoubtedly, she does have one of the biggest serves in the WTA, a fantastic, formidable forehand. She could blast away past anybody in this draw. I'm just not sure she has the variation either if things aren't quite going her way. Moving on now to Karolina Pliskova, who reached the Wimbledon final. And I've said, I think, in every single Grand Slam preview video on this channel that is she the best player not to win a Grand Slam in WTA? I think you have to argue she probably is. She's come the closest to doing it for a lot of years. At Wimbledon last month, played very, very well. And mentally, again, similarly to Sabalenka, I've never really trusted Pliskova in a Grand Slam. I think she's a very gifted player, but hasn't always produced her best in the quarterfinals and semi-finals. But she proved me wrong at Wimbledon, and that sets up in very good stead for this US Open. She recovered from a set down against Sabalenka in the semi-final. She pushed Barty all the way in the final. On another day, could have went her way. I was just impressed with her aggression, her serving, her shot making in the big moments. She saved countless break points throughout. And despite not winning the title, I think that was a major breakthrough for her, that she played so well in that semi-final and final against top players. She'll take huge confidence from that into the US Open, and perhaps she will go all the way in the final Grand Slam of 2021. Finally, I do want to give a mention to Emiratu Kanu. Being a British tennis fan, I was lucky enough to watch her when she was, I think, 15 or 16 at the Manchester Trophy, and straight away from watching her, she's always had the potential and hit balls with Andy Murray and being hyped up by British pundits and ex-pros, and we're starting to see the real Raducanu, and she burst onto the scene at Wimbledon, reaching the fourth round, beating Saranis Castilla, beating Marketa Vondrousova, the former French Open finalist. And Raducanu's a hugely talented player. She's got a fantastic serve. She reads the game so well, anticipates the ball so well, brilliant returner. She's got fantastic power on forehand and backhand, a great mover, a real hunger and desire for the sport, and I think her potential is huge. It's exciting to have as a British tennis fan. We haven't had a really strong British women's player for quite a few years, other than Johanna Konta. But Raducanu's qualified for her first ever main draw at the US Open after coming through 3 qualifying rounds, as have Katie Bolt and Harriet Dart. So it's nice to have 4 or 5 British women in the draw. I hope they do go well, but Raducanu is the one that I'm certainly most excited about for the future. I could also talk about Iga Swiatek and Garbina Muguruza, Simona Halep, Angelique Kerber. Anyone could win this, as I've mentioned throughout. But if I was to give me verdict on who I think will win the 2021 Women's US Open, I think if Naomi Osaka had played a full season, won titles, she would be a heavy favourite. She is the best women's hardcore player in the world. Um, Effortless power, immense confidence when on court, rocket serve, stunning returner. I'm convinced that she can bring her best level to the tournament after the 2021 she's had so far. I can't say I am, but am I more confident in Ashley Barty doing that? Certainly, yes. She's been the best and most consistent player in 2021. Her mentality, ability under pressure, desire to win, variety, serve were all exceptional at Wimbledon. And as I said before, she defines the word champion. She does everything to a very high level. Mentally, she looks rock solid, and I just think she's going to be very, very hard to beat, and she has to be the favourite going into this. Otherwise, I like Belinda Bencic's chances, but I am going to be also posting a men's preview video if you do want to check that out, probably later today, maybe early tomorrow. Subscribe for videos throughout where we'll be covering the men's and women's tournament. Thank you for watching. If you do have any thoughts on the tournament yourself, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next video.